exquisite pointed fingers and slender feet, and though Mr. and Mrs. Foster were, perhaps fortunately, unaware of it, she had been not at all the baby one would have expected to come to life in a corner of the hive of a workman's flat a few feet from the elevated railroad. "Seems sometimes as if somehow she couldn't be mine," Mrs. Foster said at times. "She ain't like me, and she ain't like Jem Foster. Lord knows, she ain't like none of either of our families I've ever heard of, 'ceptin' it might be her Aunt Hester. But she died long before I was born. I've only heard mother tell about her. She was an awful pretty girl. Mother said she had that kind of lily-white complexion and long slender fingers that was so supple she could curl 'em back like they was double jointed. Her eyes was big and had eyelashes that stood out round them, but they was brown. Mother said she wasn't like any other kind of girl, and she thinks Judith may turn out like her. She wasn't but 15 when she died. She never was ill in her life, but one morning she didn't come down to breakfast, and when they went up to call her, there she was sittin' at her window restin' her chin on her hand, with her face turned up smilin' as if she was talkin' to someone. The doctor said it had happened hours before, when she had come to the window to look at the stars. Easy way to go, wasn't it?" Judith had heard of her Aunt Hester, but she only knew that she herself had hands like her, and that her life had ended when she was quite young. Mrs. Foster was too much occupied by the strenuousness of life to dwell upon the passing of souls. To her the girl Hester seemed too remote to appear quite real. The legends of her beauty and unlikeness to other girls seemed rather like a sort of romance. As she was not aware that Judith hated the elevated railroad, so she was not aware that she was fond of the faraway Aunt Hester with the long pointed fingers which could curl backwards. She did not know that when she was playing in her corner of the room, where it was her way to sit on her little chair with her face turned towards the wall, she often sat curving her small long fingers backward and talking to herself about Aunt Hester. But this, as well as many other things, was true. It was not secretiveness which caused the child to refrain from speaking of certain things. She herself could not have explained the reasons for her silence. Also, it had never occurred to her that explanation and reasons were necessary. Her mental attitude was that of a child who, knowing a certain language, does not speak it to those who have never heard and are wholly ignorant of it. She knew her Aunt Hester as her mother did not. She had seen her often in her dreams, and had a secret fancy that she could dream of her when she wished to do so. She was very fond of dreaming of her. The places where she came upon Aunt Hester were strange and lovely places, where the air one breathed smelled like flowers, and everything was lovely in a new way. And when one moved, one felt so light that movement was delightful, and when one wakened, one had not quite got over the lightness, and for a few moments felt as if one would float out of bed. The healthy, vigorous young couple who were the child's parents were in a healthy, earthly way very fond of each other. They had made a genuine love match, and had found it satisfactory. The young mechanic, Jem Foster, had met the young shop girl, Jane Hardy, at Coney Island one summer night, and had become at once enamored of her shop girl good looks and high spirits. They had married as soon as Jem had had the raise which he was anticipating, and had from that time lived with much harmony in the flat building by which the elevated train rushed and roared every few minutes through the day and a greater part of the night. They themselves did not object to the elevated. Jem was habituated to uproar in the machine shop in which he spent his days, and Jane was too much absorbed in the making of men's coats by the dozens to observe anything else. The pair had healthy appetites and slept well after their day's work, hearty supper.